The second and most common way that we do social listening are custom dashboards. So what happens at J&J is whoever has a specific business case that they want to research online will come to me and we'll work to strategize a specific dashboard that they can use on an ongoing basis that's real-time, updated, has different modules that they're able to look at to gain insights from. And we have about 1,000 of those different dashboards created for our teams across the world. The third way is deep dive analyst reports when we're a little bit resource or time constrained and we outsource the analysis piece. So we always outsource the platform and the tool that we use, but we do a lot of the analytics in-house. So at times we just outsource that piece as well. So we use social listening for real-time insights. It's really around what consumers are talking about, what are the trends, who's talking about it, where is that conversation happening, where do we need to be paying attention to, and what are some of the moments that matter to our consumers. And at the bottom here, one of the most important, probably relevant author groups, if you're a consumer product influencers are obviously something you want to pay attention to. High level, the three main ways that we go about social listening are to support innovation, communication, and in-market performance. Although we're always getting more creative in terms of different use cases, different ways that we can do social listening. One of the main things that I'm trying to do is get this beyond our marketing team and into R&D, into supply chain, into corporate groups, and I think we've done a good job of that this year. So my first example for you is going to be around innovation, and this is actually from our R&D team, working in partnership with our marketing team. So one of our more premium hair brands, OGX, which you might know, is one of our biggest innovation cases that I like to use. So the business case and the approach here was to look at what consumers wish for online. One of my favorite components that we use is what we call wish, hate, love, which is exactly what it sounds like. So it's a component of 3 parts: what consumers wish for, what they hate, and what they love about whatever product or brand you choose to research. So here we see what consumers wish for OGX. I can even use this on my dyed hair without any problems. I do wish it foamed more while washing my hair, but that's a personal preference. So what that tells our R&D team is we need to go back and look at our formula, or maybe we need to look a little deeper into this concept. Is this not foamy enough? Are other consumers saying that? Do we need to do focus groups or surveys? Is that something we need to pay attention to? Another use case here, OGX Beauty, I wish you sold this year round. And you can see that that's a limited edition vanilla and chai spice conditioner. So that's also something our teams will look into. Is that something that we should make a year-round product? Is that going to improve the performance of our brand? And so that was, like I said, an opportunity for marketing to work with R&D on commercial innovation projects. So like I said, we also use social listening for communication. We do a lot of competitive intelligence as well, and that's the case here. So social listening, in the ways that Johnson & Johnson uses it, is more than just our brands. It's more than just category insights. It's also looking at our competitors and what consumers think about our competitors, because that can help us in our communications as well. So in this case, we were coming out with a new line, skin detox line, and we obviously have a lot of competitors in that space. So we wanted to learn what consumers were saying about our competitors there and their market performance. So what we found is that we had one competitor who was getting recognized for dual benefits. So detoxifying from the effects of pollution, plus damage caused from blue light from digital devices. And we use actually a word cloud in this case. Jim was mentioning that before. That's that's one of the most common ways that you can get down to quick and dirty insights in terms of phrases that are talked about a lot in conjunction with your brands, hashtags that are used widely, even sentiment and what's trending. So that helped our team kind of form the communication for their new launch based on what their competitors were known for as well. And market performance, like I said, is also one of the key ways that we use social listening. This is an example of our contact lens bar. So the business challenge here is to understand the category barriers and reason for exit. So this is more of a sentiment case. Sentiment analysis is huge in consumer products. Users are always going online talking about what's good, what's bad. So other than just trending topics, we always like to know what consumers are saying in terms of sentiment around our brands. So what we learned here is that there's a big difference between users who are currently in market using our products, our contact lens products, and users who are just thinking about it. So users who are just thinking about using contacts tend to have a more positive attitude towards it because it's going to help them see better. And they don't really know yet the maintenance that it takes to be a contact lens user. I'm a contact lens user and I'm guilty of having awful habits with doing the necessary hand washing for my contacts. But what we learned was that once users get into using contacts, negative sentiment starts to go up a little bit. You can't see the numbers, but it's 19% negative when you're just considering, 41 when you're actually in market as a contact lens user. And a lot of that conversation was around laziness, and consumers don't like the routine of washing your hands every time, making sure they're clean, having a clean environment for your contacts, using solution. When you're getting up in the morning, getting ready for work, it's too much of a pain in the ass, for me at least. So what that told us is maybe we need to start to get our consumers into more of a habit of cleanliness, and the sentiment around using our contact lenses will improve, and users will not be so quick to exit the category. So I think all those examples are really interesting ways that we've used social listening in the past. We're always trying to advance the way that we do social listening. And I think social listening as a capability has advanced as well in terms of NLP and machine learning and a lot of different products out there that do great things. So a little bit about our practice at J&J. As Randall mentioned, I've been leading the practice since March of 2019. We've been doing social listening, I think, since 2015. And we slowly started adding users, and then something kicked, and we've been exponential in our user base growing the past couple of years. So we have about 1,000 users across all of our markets around the globe in multiple functions using social listening for various different use cases. We have about 880 dashboards, what I call those custom projects I was referring to in the beginning. So basically 880 different use cases in all different markets, different languages. We have 24 global markets and 21 languages covered. And then 50 plus of our J&J brands. You can see a few of the major ones listed there. We have 400 competitor brands and 80 different product categories. All those numbers are growing. Just social listening as a capability in J&J is growing. And that's what I'm here to talk about. So I look forward to answering your questions at the end.
So next up is the future of social listening. So we have someone who's working in a startup using natural language processing, a great illustrious academic background. So this is Dr. Nadia Masalam. She's the technical co-founder of SiteX, which is a consumer science platform. To give you some background, Nadia, after receiving her doctorate from Columbia, she started serving as faculty at both Columbia and New York University, where she taught graduate level classes on research methodology, applied statistics, dynamic systems, and complexity. Okay. She's over 15 years of experience. Well, that you dated yourself there. She doesn't look like she has 15 years of experience, but she does, okay. In the daily world, consulting would lead R&D projects across multiple sectors, including technology, government, financial services, fashion, media, entertainment, sports. So she's going to take us through where this whole field is going next.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. 15 more minutes, yeah, for more one. Okay, so I thought to actually start the presentation and focus it on getting rid of that black box of natural language processing. We hear it quite often. We think it's important. We're not quite sure how it works. We hope it works. It doesn't always work the way we want it to work. I see a lot of nodding heads, yeah. And so if I have a purpose of this presentation is to, one, demystify it, so to make the language relevant to everybody in the room, whether you're in social listening, in survey research, in qualitative research, because it's all text, yeah? And the second component of the presentation, what I'm hoping to achieve is sort of to talk about where we're at and where I think the future will be. And that is partially influenced from the challenges, quite frankly, that we face today in the field. So, if you open up a web browser, how is that? We're not going to mention what web browser. And you put in NLP, just type in NLP, yes? And then click on images. These would probably, when I did it on my laptop, these were the images that came up first. Okay? And I think that says something. Just sort of a quick, let's see, like who's in the audience. When you see this list, what do you think? What are the immediate associations?
Complexity.
Complexity. What else?
Brainwaves.
Yes. Brainwaves. What else?
Problem solved.
Problem solved. Does it look cool? Sophisticated,
Semiotics.
right? And it's like this magic box where things happen. Do you agree? And you go, oh, like it's cool. Looks like sophisticated and nice and cool. But the truth is, this is misconception. If we talk about images and misconception, because actually NLP look more like that. Okay?
All right.
The vast majority of the time is spent by tech companies, analysts who do NLP. It's actually estimated around 80% of the time of the first iteration. It's actually doing something very basic. If you want NLP to be meaningful, to be relevant, then what you need to do is teach the computer. And yes, there is such a thing. You need to teach the computer what does a sentence mean? What does a phrase mean in terms of your context? Now, we sort of have evolved. In the old days, we used to highlight, and we still do it quite frankly, right? We have 20 pages and we highlight phrases and we go, oh, this means intent to purchase. This means sentiment. And according to that, I'm gonna categorize it. Guess what? If somebody is doing NLP, they're actually, we have now syntax programs. And so we still need to do exactly the same work to get to meaningful understanding. I'm going to elaborate a little bit more about how does that look like. But first things first, for those who are in the audience who wonder, is NLP artificial intelligence? What does it mean? How is it related to machine learning? The answer is it is widely agreed upon that NLP is a branch of artificial intelligence. Yeah? And within artificial intelligence, there are two paths you can go. You can go the unsupervised learning path, and you can go the supervised learning path. The unsupervised learning path is, can spend hours talking about that, but in a nutshell, it's when you don't train a data set. Where the supervised learning is actually when you do train a data set to then feed it into your program so the program can learn, so the machine can learn. The vast majority of the impactful NLP is actually done with supervised training, and that is key. Unsupervised learning gives you a little bit of, if you run frequency, right? Like you don't need to actually train the computer to do anything, like word clouds. It is just running, scanning the dot, and it's running frequency, how many times a word occurred. A very simplistic definition of it. There are other stuff you can do. But with supervised learning, it's when you actually have to teach the computer something, like the color-coded thing I just shared. Now you may ask as well, what does it take, like to produce impactful NLP product? We typically go to thinking, oh, it takes analysts. Or do I need an analyst? I get asked that all the time. If I'm trying to solve for an NLP issue in my company, do I hire an analyst? Do I hire a data scientist? Do I hire computer engineer? Do I need somebody who understands the business context? So do I hire anthropologists? Do I hire social scientist individuals? Do I hire linguistics? The answer is all of the above. Okay? Because you need the linguists to figure out the grammatical part, because it's text. And if we're gonna train computers at scale, then what we need to do is figure out the composition of a sentence, right? And linguists can help with more complex text, if you wish. You need the computer scientist because at the end of the day, you're dealing with a machine and there's program encoding associated with it. And so it helps to have knowledge. But then you need a statistician. Because when you're about to run the models, it helps when somebody tells you, a statistician, whether it's more likely that you're going to get results based on logistic regression or support vector machine modeling, for example. And then you need the business case. Because somebody in the healthcare industry will tell you exactly, like the language, as Ben was sharing, like what I'm looking for. Jim was talking about it in the context of IBM jams. You go to fashion, there is a completely different language that they're mining. And so without having that context, you can go pretty off the road, yeah? Without knowing what you're looking for. So it always helps to have multidisciplinary team involved in solving for natural language processing that your company might be interested in understanding at scale. And these are the main applications, right? Like, so we've heard social listening, and it can be survey, it can be interviews, and all of them, quite frankly. But you're typically interested in one of those 4 primary ways of analyzing it. You're either interested in content categorization, right? You're interested in summarization, you're interested in sentiment analysis, or you're interested in name entity recognition. Yeah? And so it's typically, those are the ones that are most widely used. Now, how does it work? Are you interested in hearing 5 minutes about that?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, 5 minutes. Here is how it looks like. And I'm gonna go through it pretty quickly. the first thing you need is a data set. We need a data set. If you collected survey questions from 1,000 respondents, you need that. If you scrape from Twitter 1,000 respondents, you need that, yeah? Interviews, you need the script. And the first step that we need to do is what we call processing or pre-processing. And what do I mean by that? And I say pre-processing or processing because some will say it's processing, some would say, no, it's pre-processing. But the idea is to get rid of the noise. And so we talked about getting rid of scam, right? Spam. We talked about getting rid of potentially, you can get rid of like symbols. You can get rid of words that don't mean much. But the way to go about it is actually through two sub-processing. One is called normalization and the other is called tokenization. So normalization, and this is like where the manual work happens. When you get rid of capitalized, that's a nightmare to deal with. Everything has to be lowercase, and so we clean it that way. We get rid of symbols, we get rid of stop words like that and everything in between, because from a natural language processing, that's noise, and we're trying to reduce it as much as possible so we can gain higher accuracy. The second thing you do is tokenization, and what I mean by tokenization, you need to decide like what is the most meaningful unit of analysis that you're interested in. So on a word level, it gives you some idea of what's happening, right? We saw the case of like love and hate. The issue with that, and where that typically we try to enhance it, is that I don't know how it came up in the context of the sentence. So saying, I love the product means very different from saying, I'm not sure I love the product, right? And so you gotta decide tokenization, like what is the unit of analysis that you're interested in, yeah? And then give it the tag that is relevant for your analytics. Is it behavior? Is it opinion? Is it sentiment? And so forth. Now, once you do all of that work, are you ready? Then that is your golden data set in natural language processing. And so that basically then gets fed into new data that we haven't seen, right? So this is how we go from coding, building a golden data set, taking a sample, and then saying, now I want to apply it, not to one document, I want to apply it to 10,000 documents. And that's where we apply models such as support vector machine or logistic regression. If you have a statistician in hand, they'll know exactly what they're doing, and they, quite frankly, they'll probably try both and see which one yields more accuracy. Now, as you see, like, there's like a lot of different arrows, and we have them here because there's actually a lot of iterations. So we run it the first time, we learn something, and then we find out that it's not accurate, or it could be more accurate, so we end up rerunning it and getting rid of more noise and running it again until we get to that, that optimal state. That's natural language processing. Here's what I think